1 second, 2 seconds.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
I got
15,
2.
16. That one doesn't work either.
No, it's gonna work.
Hit them together, knock them together.
Anyway,
There you go.
it's gonna work in 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Oh!
Have a seat, Bruce.
Wow.
This is the album. This is the album.
That is the album. Jesus, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Do you prefer CD or vinyl?
What do I prefer? Well, CD is kind of convenient because you can, wander around with it and carry it around and stuff. But vinyl is better for if you've got a record player. Vinyl's going to sound.
Which you don't have, right?
Where I don't carry my record player with me because I'm traveling all the time. So unfortunately, but the vinyl sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly proud of the cut on the vinyl because it really sounds sensational, and because it's 58-minute record and it's a double vinyl.
Yeah.
So that means the grooves are huge. So we've got like loads of it's great sound. We had a problem when we went to master the record because obviously you physically cut it on a thing called an acetate, and you get that as an example of what the vinyl will sound like. But you can only play it 3 or 4 times. It's very soft, and if you prove it, then they go and they make the mold that presses the record from that. So it's very important that the guy who actually does the cut, it is literally cutting grooves in vinyl, and that's the moment when your creation turns into vinyl creation. So there's this great guy, Bob Ludwig, who's a legend of mastering, right? Bob Ludwig. So we wanted Bob Ludwig to master the record, and we phoned up, and the guy is mastering the place was like, "We're really sorry, but Mr. Ludwig retired yesterday." I'm like, no, and so we mastered it at a place called Black Belt Mastering with an engineer called Levi up in Seattle. Oh my God! Well, we were doing an Atmos mix, so we've done this. This is actually. It's a bit strange because you've got a Dolby sound system in a cinema, but actually it's a stereo mix. So it probably it was hard to tell. Probably somebody sitting in the middle was getting a good sound, but up the top there was like, where's the bass? So it's in there somewhere. So it's just, the room done a few weird things to the sound, but so as I said, this is just a regular stereo mix, but we do have a full spatial Dolby surround sound Atmos mix of the album. Right. So, which if you get it on Apple Music and you use earbuds, you get, if you want that sound, you'll get it. And it sounds really cool. Some tracks sound really cool. The last couple of tracks sound unbelievable in Atmos because there's lots of space and you can move things around your head and stuff, But we were in the studio for 2 days mixing all this Atmos stuff, and we were like, wow, that's pretty cool, super high-tech studio. And we had the acetates to listen to for the record. So we brought a little portable record player and plugged it into the speakers, and we didn't think much about it, just put it on. And we were like, oh my God, fuck Atmos. This sounds unbelievable. Fuck, stereo, just wow. And we were completely blown away. We couldn't believe how good the vinyl sounds. Good. So yeah, really proud of the cut. And the cover, of course, is just tactile. And I wanted on the cover to get a sort of a bit of an enigma, not like really obvious, like, this is a heavy metal record, like that. No, this is what the fuck is this record? Yeah. Because you go into it with a question mark, going, hey, what is this? What's that all about? And you don't get much of a clue from there. When you open it up, you get the picture of me in a stone circle. Yeah. And also I had a rule, no Photoshop. So all the pictures are real. Yeah. Yeah, because you know, I was just like, you know, when I was a kid, the album cover that absolutely, the ones that blew me away were the ones, you know, like the Floyd album covers, the Pink Floyd, Storm Thorgerson, that kind of stuff. They were all real photographs, right? And also there was the original cover for the first Black Sabbath album, which was like the woman standing in the field with the lake behind her. It's like an infrared photograph. And it was so mysterious and such a like, oh, what's going on there? I stared at that for hours and hours and hours. And I know loads of other people did as well. And I was just like, if I could even get close to doing that, but you can't do that with Photoshop, because people can, you can tell it's fake, you know, and even more with kids now. I mean, the kids can do this in their bedrooms, for God's sakes, you know. But a photograph is something that's real, it's got depth, and so that's why I insisted on that. They wanted to retouch the photograph in the centerfold. The guys were like, oh, there's a load of old like wood at the back of that stone circle, and it's all just trash. It's just old gnarly bits of wood. And the guy goes, I can tidy that up. I said, no, you won't tidy it up, because that destroys the reality. You know, as soon as you fuck with the reality, it's an illusion. It's not real anymore, and therefore people go, no, disregard. You know, so we did that, and then we had the shot on the back cover is from a graveyard. Yeah, and there was like about 200 photographs. And I was going through them, and I stopped at that one, and I suddenly went, who the hell is that? And I went, oh, it's me. And the next question, like, why am I there? I went, that's the one, that's the picture. Because if I think, who the hell is that, and why is he there? That's the picture. And there were loads of other pictures where I was standing in exactly the same spot, but it was just the look, or the just had a feel to it. So yeah, so that was the cover. It took ages for the cover.
What about 1949, 1968?
I can't tell you, because it's a secret. I mean, that actually is a reference to stuff that happens in the comic. Okay. So so stuff happens in the comic. 1941 is an important date, and,
right.
and 1968 is also a kind of important date.
So you have to read the comics to figure it out.
No, you don't have to read the comics. I mean, you can just sit there and go, why?
But I mean, you have been doing this for a very long time. When did you start with the Mandrake Project?
Well, first of all, it wasn't called the Mandrake Project until about 12 months ago.
All right.
So I didn't have a name for the album. I didn't have a name for the comic.
Okay.
So back in 2014, I was thinking about doing one comic with an album, because I thought it would be cool, you know, and you could maybe tell the story of the comic through the album, and that's what I was thinking of doing. We had a couple of tracks already that we thought, yeah, might be interesting. The very last track, Sonata, is 25 years old.
Wow.
The track before it is 20 years old. The first two tracks on the album are basically last year, because we wrote them as soon as the year before, but as soon as we got back together again after all that COVID stuff and everything, right? And the ones in between were all written in like 2013, 2014. So I went to Roy with a bunch of songs and said, look, I've got all these tunes. Some of them were in better shape than others. Some of them didn't have lyrics. Some of them were just riffs, just ideas, things like that. Some of them were, you know, basically complete, you know. And one of the tracks was called If Eternity Should Fail. And that was because I'd been binge reading all my old Doctor Strange comics and Silver Surfer comics, hoping to get a bit of inspiration for the story. As it happened, the inspiration for the story I used came from the song Accident of Birth. And I invented two characters, Dr. Necropolis and Professor Lazarus. And that's as far as I got in 2014. The song, If Eternity Should Fail, the title comes from a Doctor Strange comic episode. And as soon as I was flicking through the page, I went, if Eternity should fail, wow, what a great title for an album.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the album title. And then, of course, Maiden decided to, borrow it for a while. on loan for a while, I'll repossess it for a while, And I thought, and then we did Book of Souls, which was all great. And then, of course, I had a medical problem with, throat cancer and what have you. So that was another year, and then it was another 2 years, and then it was another 3 years of COVID. And it was like 7 years went by. I was like, okay, what just happened, So we got back together finally when we were allowed to go back to the USA and everything. And the first thing we did was write the first 2 songs on the album. And then we revisited all the other ones. And some of them were sort of kind of complete almost. I mean, none of them had drums on them. It was all like just demo drums. So Dave, our drummer, who's also playing with us live as well, it's fantastic. So Dave, he's got his own little studio, the Doom Room, which is really cool, tiny little place. It's actually his mum's garage. So he has a permanent kit set up there, all hooked up to Pro Tools and what have you. So he overdubbed real drums on top of the drum machine. Then we got rid of the drum machine. Then he replaced all of the drums he just played, note for note, in a big studio with a big kit, to get the really fat sound. So it was an amazing piece. I was just like, how do you do that? I mean, like, absolutely immaculate. Kept the feel, kept the swing, kept the vibe, everything, So yeah, he's quite something as a drummer, and very nice chap, solid. But unlike most other drummers I've ever met, who are completely barking mad, he's actually very sensible.
There is actually one guy in this audience who plays with you live. That's Philip.
Yeah, Philip. Philip Aslan.
Set up.
So come up. Yeah.
Come
so
on. Come and say hi.
We're taking a little bit of Sweden with us everywhere.
No.
Oh, it was only last week. I was in the Doom Room with Philip. So I said, learn 3 or 4 tracks, and he came and learned like 14 of them. Talented bastard. So
Good to have you.
We had a blast anyway, so it's really good fun. That's what he looks like. You probably know him anyway. I don't know. Everybody knows everybody in Sweden.
But I mean, Bruce, Gothenburg is must be quite. I mean, every time we play here, for example, with Maiden, it's sold out.
Yeah, Ullevi, and then but we go back to what is it? Is it Scandinavian? No, yeah, Scandinavian.
Yeah,
Scandinavian. Yeah, places like that. It's kind of.
And I mean,
cool.
I can't even. I don't know if it's a new old Ullevi or the old new Ullevi that they changed the name. You can talk to them from Gothenburg. I don't know actually.
Yeah.
But are there any countries around the world? It's like you can't go there with Maiden. It's like, except for North Korea maybe, but it's like you're not gonna work there.
We went to China, and that was a little bit weird. Yeah, I mean, it was just strange. We had to submit all of our lyrics to make sure that we weren't saying anything against, Deng Xiaoping or whatever it was. I don't know. And we couldn't say. There were some words that we couldn't say, and we couldn't do this, and we couldn't do that.
Right.
So I thought, well, we went there once, and I have no great desire to go back again,
But Sweden is important for Maiden, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, every country's important. Every country's important where we have a lot of fans. It's, of course, But Sweden's quite. It is. Sweden and chuck the Nordic countries in that, the whole Nordic region. Finland, Sweden, Oslo. The Danes, I think they're a bit more part of like northern Germany for that.
That's what we say as well.
But regardless of that, I mean, ever since the days of the first days of like, you know, Purple and Rainbow and stuff like that. Sweden was always like a standard bearer of this kind of music, you know, and it's proof that you know metal music can exist with humanity, you know, you know. Whereas even in America, where you think that everything would be after all these years, you know, because they semi-invented various elements of rock and roll over there. You would imagine that they'd be kind of open-minded, but they're still not, you know. Yeah, Sweden's great. Yeah.
You mentioned that, I mean, you had this cancer.
Oh yeah.
And the COVID came, and Nico has been ill.
Yeah, Nick. I mean, Nick. Honestly, what he did on the last tour was nothing short of amazing. I mean, yeah, at the risk of going more into my medical history than you really don't need, you know, in February, I mean, both of my hips are worn out.
Yeah.
You know, from jumping around on stage and fencing and doing stupid shit, you know. So, you know, I've got like metal ones, so I'm like properly heavy metal now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Not titanium, it's not so heavy, but you know. But they work great, and I'm running around and doing everything and doing all the stuff that I did before. It's exactly the same. No, it's no difference at all. So I had a new right hip in February, and so all of that tour that I just did was all 2 months, 3 months after that. Nico had a stroke almost at the same time, and I'm wandering around going, hey, look at me, I've got rid of my walking stick, and I've stopped taking paracetamol, you know, everything's fine. And Nick just sent us a little email going, chaps, just so you know, I had a little bit of a stroke the other day. I was like, what the fuck? So, and it wasn't a little bit of a stroke. It was a proper, full-on. I mean, and luckily, his wife got him to hospital because it happened in his house, and they knew exactly what to do, and they gave him this like fairly new drug, which it's kind of like Control-Alt-Delete for strokes. It reboots your system, and hopefully it comes back. And the answer is, most of his left side all came back within a matter of hours, except his left hand. And you know, I mean, Nick, that's his snare drum hand, you know. So how he coped with that was just amazing. I mean, he started learning to drum again because he couldn't hold a stick. He couldn't hold a fork. In fact, when we were mixing the album in April in Florida, I invited him up to the studio, so I thought he probably needs cheering up a bit because we didn't start rehearsing until May, so he still had a month to go. So he came up to the studio, and the first thing I thought when I saw him was, wow, you look sensational. You know, he was tanned and he was skinny, he lost a bit of weight. He goes, yeah, I couldn't hold a fucking fork. I couldn't be able to eat the last 3 fucking months, you know. So, not lost the sense of humour then, you know. No, so, but honestly, he explained to me everything he was doing to get his drumming chops back, you know. And he acknowledged, you know, he won't be able to do everything that he did. Not within a year or 2 years, but it will come back, you know, because his friend Ian Pace from Deep Purple, the same thing happened to him. He had a stroke, you know, and you can't tell, you know, now with Ian at all. And they've been talking, and you know, so it's just he's working every day. He's got a little band, and he's made them learn the Iron Maiden set. So, you know, they go out and they do like little jams in Florida, you know, playing the whole Iron Maiden set, you know. And so, yeah, he's really, really determined. I mean, and because drumming's his life, you know what I mean? So it's...
A couple of years ago, you said something, I don't know if it was you, but the talk of the town was like, are there gonna be a new wave of British heavy metal tour?
No.
Not at all. You, Leppard maybe, and Saxon.
No.
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 No? You thought about it, like?
No.
No? Would you like to do it?
No. No, I'm trying at the moment to do this thing, which is living like now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's really easy to live in the past, and at the same time, it's also very easy to live in the future. You know, like, oh yeah, one day, oh, this will happen. But no, it hasn't happened yet. You know, so why not just do what's in front of you today? You know, like this is what's in front of me, like right now.
But do you appreciate life more to live in it now these days? Than
Oh yeah.
before?
Oh absolutely, yeah. I mean, after I got done with the scare, you know, of like, oh my God, you know, I might die sooner rather than later. You know. It amused me actually to see some article that's doing it a favour it probably doesn't deserve. But it was a headline in some shitty American tabloid thing, you know, Prince Charles is dying, right? Or King Charles, sorry, is dying, and I was just like, yeah. All of us are dying, you know, just at different rates, you know. I mean? So when you confront the possibility that you might not be around, then afterwards, when you are still here, it does. At first, I thought, no, it'd make a difference. No, just a flesh wound. No. And so I appreciate every day now, you know, more than I ever did before.
Okay. This might be a bad comparison, but would you say that Tears of the Dragon is your stairway to heaven?
It's not a dissimilar. It's not a dissimilar structure. Is it my stairway to heaven? No. Is it my? That's my Led. My Ed Zeppelin. You know. You know.
But I mean, every band or artist would like to have one of their own.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and I will be playing it, of course.
Yeah.
You know. So, you know, so I'm going to be playing it this summer, and we're actually discussing where to put it in the set.
Is it now at the end or in the beginning?
Well, that's what we were discussing.
All right. It's an encore.
No, because it's like I think I'd rather get it over with. You know, like so people are going, is he going to play Tears? Oh fuck. There it is. You know, because I have so much. I have a lot of really good material.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
he's got 7 albums.
You have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
So I'm and it's still a bit of work in progress because when I was, you know, I had a jam with Philip and Dave in the studio last week. Yeah, last week. Yeah. 'Cause I got in from LA on Thursday, so Friday before. Yeah. Anyway, so and then Chris, the other guitar player, Chris de Klerk, who played the solo incidentally on Rain on the Graves. Him and I and Dave, and then Tanya was in town, bass player. So we all got together in the do room. It's got really crowded, actually. It's a tiny little studio. And we had a bash through, you know, like 2/3 of the set. And as soon as you start playing it with other human beings, you go, no, that song's not going to work there. It should be there, and you know, you just get a different perspective on it. It's one thing to write it down in a list and go, oh yeah, that looks good, but what it feels like when you actually play it. So it's going to be really exciting. I start rehearsals on the 28th of this month with all of us, all 6 of us. So we've got, of course, Mysteria coming over as well, the crazy keyboard player, and he's just he's actually not crazy. He's insane. So that's going to be really exciting, doing that. I mean, it's a pretty high level set of musicians that I've got in the band. So we're going to be focusing on that. We're going to be tweaking the musicianship end of it, and that's the show. The show is the music.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a screen, you know.
But it's not based on like too much of a scene. Because you told me before that the players are very important and the live set is very important. Not so much like you've done with Maiden. It's like big.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, so that we're not we're not one of these sets where everything, you know, you have to play it to a click track because there's a movie going on behind your head, you know.
Or an airplane flying.
Yeah. None of that bullshit. There is no. there is no. We don't do click tracks. This is real musicianship. And so I want that excitement. So I'm just looking at the screen. I mean, I've got content and things that I can put on the screen, but I'm going to leave that to the lighting engineer.
Right.
And for me, the screen is just an extension of the light show. I'm not in charge of the light show. He's in charge of the light show. He's the artist in charge of making the thing look cool. So I'll let him be artistic with it. We'll have a few suggestions and things, but we were just getting on and focusing on the audience and focusing on just doing some incredible playing and having people go, wow, because you transport people, you know, you can transport people with music, and that's got to be, for me, that's got to be front and center. That's exactly what it's all about.
Good. We got some Q&A, so if anyone has a question, we should take that right now. If you don't dare, you don't have to. On there, Darren.
Oh,
the runner boy. This is on.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about it just recently here, but could you talk a little bit more about the phenomenal band that you have behind you? Obviously, Roy has been with you before, but how did you discover these new musicians and what did they contribute?
So Dave. To start with the drummer. To start with the old crew. So Dave has been with us for donkey's years, from Tyranny of Souls. Mysteria, the same. All the keyboards that have been on all of my records have all been done by Mysteria. And I didn't meet him until about 3 years ago, because it was all done remotely. He would be in Rome or Zagreb or whatever he was doing. And he's got his own band, sort of like the Vivaldi Project, which is outrageous. If you get a chance to listen to it, it's just like, and I think he's on YouTube. He's a Yamaha like demonstrator, so he demonstrates their keyboards. He does these like amazing concert piano things. He's off the chart talented, ridiculous, you know, and he's a good footballer as well. So, and he's Italian, which means that he knows all the best restaurants. So, but so that's Mysteria, and that's Dave. Tanya, the bass player, who obviously plays with Whitesnake, and Whitesnake are having a year off, so she was available. I met Tanya when I did this concerto for group and orchestra thing, with the reimagining the John Lord concerto with a few Purple songs, and we also did Jerusalem and Tears of the Dragon with a full orchestral arrangement as well. So I did about 8 shows, and Tanya turned up as the bass player. Never met her before. What a fabulous bass player, first of all, and just what an easy person to get on with, you know. And so apart from the fact that she's, you know, we all get, so we get the best Italian restaurants. We also, because of Tanya, get all the best vegan restaurants as well. So yeah, then 2 guitar players. So Chris de Klerk happened to play guitar on Rain on the Graves. and Philip, I met actually at home in Chiswick, in the pub, because he was doing songwriting with my son, Austin. So they were just writing stuff together, and Austin played me. He said, "Hey Dad, I've got this amazing guy, Philip. You want to hear some of his stuff?" So he played me some of the demos. I was just like, "Wow, where did this guy come from?"
Sweden.
Jesus.
Sweden.
Yeah, made in Sweden. So that was my first encounter with Philip, and like what lovely guy. I mean, and great guitar player, super talented. And then I was thinking about, because Roy was under a bit of stress at home and things like that. He had a lot of commitments, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should take a second guitar player, because okay, 6-piece band. Singer, why the hell not? So we're going to be an immense sound, and it was Austin that said, well, why don't you ask Philip? So Philip was working in Texas with a band on tour recently, and he said, well, why don't I just swing by? I just changed my ticket and just swing by LA for a couple of days. I said, well, could you learn a few tunes? He went, yeah. So that's what happened. So he turned up, and I went, well, that was cool. And then the next day, Chris came in and did a similar, a similar thing. Let's go and play through a few tunes. And I was just like, I'm just going to take both of you, because Roy couldn't do it. So I'm just going to take both of you. So, I needed 2 guitar players to replace Roy, so that's all right.
Any more questions out there?
Okay, so during a long life, a long career, you've achieved so much music-wise and outside of music. Would you say there's anything in particular that you'd like to try your hand at that you haven't done yet? Avenues you'd like to explore, music-wise, non-music?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think I'd like to do the first world tour by airship.
Yeah.
It should be great. Just touch down locally, wheel out the circus tent, do the gig, move on to the next continent. But I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately, for a while. No, well, you never know. It might, but not in any meaningful way. No, I am just involved in like living in the now. So this record is well, you've heard it, and therefore it's not what I would describe as a straight down the line, predictable, cookie cutter metal record. No. It's very emotional. It's got lots and lots of depth to it. So I think that's the future for me, and the direction that I'm going to be going in, because I think there is an audience for rock and metal music that moves you beyond being in a mosh pit, which is not a bad thing. I mean, find people want to go and do the mosh pit thing, that's great. But there's a space that is seemingly almost unoccupied at the moment, between like metal like stuff and Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
There's where is that? And not even prog necessarily, somewhere that's a little bit softer than that in some place. So that's kind of where I'm going at, and I'm groping in the dark because I don't know where exactly it's going, but it's an exciting journey. And I think when you do an album, it's it's a moment in time of, okay, this is where this artist was at that particular moment. Bang, there it is. And if you look at your career as a kind of a journey, then the next stop should be. It's always a progression. I'm weird about using that word because, it sounds a bit too prescriptive. But there's somewhere to go, and I don't know where it is. And that's the exciting bit, because finding out where it is, and then the audience go, well, where's he going next? And you go, well, you better wait for the next album. You know, and that's the exciting part. Is going. You bring your audience with you on the journey, and you know, it's that way. It's really intimate. You know, so yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing next. Obviously, what I'm doing next is a tour, and then what I'm doing next is Iron Maiden. You see how easy it is to live in the future? You know?
Don't stick to
Yeah.
the past. Okay, one more.
All right, I have a question. You mentioned no Photoshop, and
Yeah.
you mentioned 2 hip replacements.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wondering, for a man pushing his mid-40s, how do you stay in that shape during the? We saw the promotional photos in the tacked on with the big arms. How do you get that to that point?
Wheaties. No, it's coming down. No, I mean, I have my porridge every morning, you know, I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I mean, when I did the first hip, the left one, which was like 2.5 years ago, maybe more actually, I had to do quite a lot of work in the gym, rehab work on that one, because they used I had it done in England, whatever. They have to cut through some muscles to get to the hip and everything. It's quite a gnarly procedure. The other one, the right one, was done in a different way, but they don't cut anything except a hole in you. And basically there was no rehabilitation at all. Your body just did it, remembered how everything works, and off you go. But the first time I did it, I was in the gym for like about 4 months afterwards, and all of it was heavy weights. And it was the first time I'd done proper weights with the physio was amazing. It was like a medical physio, so he actually really knew what he was doing, and I was astonished at how much crap I could throw around, you know. So yeah, that probably helped a little bit. But I'm not like I'm not obsessively going down the gym and consuming loads of extra protein and all the rest of it. I just try and eat sensibly, and I still train a lot when fencing, which doesn't build up a lot of bulk in your upper body actually, but some of that's there anyway, because I used to play rugby when I was a kid, and I used to be a rower as well, so rowing and rugby. So it doesn't take that much of an effort to start pumping things up and making it look a bit buff. You know, but not that I give a shit, to be honest with you. Can you tell?
One more there, yeah.
Yes, hello. You've been talking about the upcoming setlist a bit,
Yeah.
and also about the song Tears of the Dragon. That makes me think about one of the B-sides from Tears of the Dragon, The Breeding House. Have you ever considered playing that live this time around?
You know what, I think before I thought about playing The Breeding House, I think I'd like to re-record it. So it's, you know, because I think we could do a much better version of it. You see, you're giving me ideas now. And there's a few things. In actual fact, funnily enough, talking about Tears of the Dragon and that album, Balls to Picasso, at the moment we are, we've just done a complete remix of Skunk Works and done an Atmos version of Skunk Works.
Wow.
And it sounds
Cool.
amazing. Jack Endino was involved, you know, we were sending him the mixers, and Jack, I don't know if you've ever heard Jack speak, but he's really strange, he talks like that, you know. He's like, there I was down the Navy Yard fiddling with a transistor, and they said, you know electronic shit, Jack, could you operate a studio? I said, maybe, you know, and that's exactly what he talks like, big eyebrows, you know, and he's a crazy scientist geek who just is a brilliant human being as well. And he loves the mixers, he adores the mixers, and so we've done an Atmos mix as well. We're going to do Atmos for the whole catalogue,
Wow.
eventually.
Cool.
I mean, and that's an ongoing project. The next one is Balls to Picasso.
Yeah.
So the problem with Balls to Picasso is it should have been much heavier than it was, mainly because of the producer, Shea Baby, who I think didn't know whether to make it a heavy record or it's a bit in the middle, you know. So we want to add a few guitars that should have been there, and then update all the mixers, because there's a lot of stuff on the record that didn't end up on the record. It's recorded, but it's not in the mix. And we've also thought, how could we make it a bit better? So, for example, we've got a friend who's a Brazilian composer called Anthony Teoli. Anthony spent like 2 years living in the rainforest in Brazil, recording all the indigenous instruments with all the tribes and sampling them all. So he's on a song like Gods of War, for example. We put in like the Brazilian rainforest at the beginning, instead of the dum 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 dum. Now there's bird calls and Christ knows what, and it sounds fabulous. And some keyboards in there. We've done the same for Cyclops and things. So that whole thing will get remixed and remastered and Atmosed, and then we'll move on to, you know, Accident and Chemical Wedding and Tyranny.
Cool.
You know. And we'll try and do, you know, Tattooed Millionaire as well if we can find the tapes. Fucking know where the tapes are. EMI should have the tapes, but EMI don't exist anymore. So we have to find that whoever bought EMI, and then they probably went bust, and then somebody else bought them, and you know, whatever. You know,
They're on eBay somewhere.
Yeah, but, don't laugh.
One more
yeah,
question.
True.
Okay, one more question there.
Okay, I have a question about an old friend of yours, Lord Iffy.
Yes, okay.
If you ever made a movie out of this book, who would
Oh.
you prefer to play
Yeah,
Lord
yeah.
Iffy? I have one.
No, well, if you've got a spare few $100,000 to
No,
make
I
a
don't mean
movie,
that you should
by all means, you know,
If you could
I
choose
could find
any
somebody to play the part of Lord Iffy. Lord Iffy Boat Race, of course, was the character in the two kind of like comic novels that I wrote, which are now so politically incorrect. I'm not sure you could ever get away with it. You'd be cancelled immediately, you know, for just even thinking it. But yeah, he's a transvestite, of course, but only below the knee. It's an English thing, you know. English public school boys, it just does things to a man. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we end up, Bruce, it's a massive album. I just have to ask you, when you do write a Bruce Dickinson album, are there any like leftovers? This could be on the Iron Maiden album, or is it? Or do you like? This is for my soul stuff.
Are there leftovers? It's not so much that, in a way, in that there are tracks that are sitting around that we didn't develop because we went, well, are we happy with the 10 things that we've got? And given the limited, you know, a time limit, you know, on things, you know, reasonably, you know, I mean, 25 years is quite a long time,
Yes.
you know. So we did try and go, you know, we really should try and finish this, because we finished the album in April.
Yeah.
We mixed it last April. So I'm sitting there going, wow, this album sounds great. Wow, when can we get people to hear it? This is like doing my brain in. It's going to be a year before we can let people hear it. Are you mad? You know, but that's the world, the state of the world. I mean, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to get vinyl. Just to allocate the supply of vinyl to go and get your record done, so the record has to be ready to be done for the, you know, it's just a supply chain thing, which is tedious but unfortunately true. Although the number of pressing plants for vinyl is really increasing now. It's really coming back because people who really care about music. You know, it's vinyl is, you know, you know, and all the Atmos stuff notwithstanding, the vinyl experience is completely different. You know, I mean, there's a huge gaming thing now, and all these new headsets coming along with virtual reality and cameras and all that shit and everything. You know, but the reality is that those headsets, which at the moment are sort of like €2,000 or €3,000, all of that stuff is going to come way down. I think more and more people are going to start using it for gaming and things like that. The software that runs those systems won't be able to accept, I don't believe, it's just a boring old stereo mix. So they're designed for spatial, which is a different experience to stereo vinyl experience. So I say, let's just do both, and then people can choose how they want to listen to their music. You know, I'm despite all the gizmos, I just think, you know, vinyl just blows me away. A good record player with a good system, wow, warm and fat and human and analog, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
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 Are you afraid of the AI? I mean, if you can, in a couple of years, hear Bruce Dickinson on some Paul Diana songs, so it's not you singing and all that before you quit. You can make it short if you want.
No, it's funny. I mean, the thing is, I do wonder about the term artificial intelligence. You know, because you know, if this intelligence is really artificial, how come it makes people do such stupid things?
Yeah.
You know, you know, I mean, it's just what the artificial intelligence. Oh, look, artificial intelligence is fantastic. All this shit it's going to do. Well, like, let me see, porn, deep fake porn. First thing artificial intelligence did, you know. Next thing is doing cheap and nasty copies of rock music and presumably other forms of music. I mean, none of this stuff is of any value to humanity at all. So if you can explain to me how it really is improving my fucking life, I don't know how. And having an artificially intelligent bank, you know, that is absolutely an oxymoron.
Yeah. But is it unstoppable?
Yeah, it will be unstoppable until people realise how stupid it can be.
Yeah.
You know,
Hopefully.
yeah, because like most things that become a fad, you know, then it's a bit like cryptocurrency. You know, that's like, it's unstoppable. You know, everybody's going to be using crypto. No. You know? So, but everybody likes to jump on a big bandwagon. AI, I'm sure, has some high-end applications, and you know, the truth is that AI, more, you know, worryingly, this is a reality, as robotics advance and as artificial intelligence mimics human intelligence more and more, and mimics human emotional intelligence more and more as processing power grows and things like that. It will get to the point where in I don't know, probably 50, 70 years' time, where a robot is in a robot, not necessarily a physical android, but a being, an artificial being, is indistinguishable from a human being, and at that point, unfortunately, they become self-replicating and learning much more rapidly than we will. So we have to kind of learn to somehow manage that, coexist with it. So that's a work in progress. But it means we'll be able to send artificial humans out into space, because we won't be able to survive in deep space.
No, of course.
Because we're too fragile. So the future of space exploration is little robotic artificial humans whizzing out there, you know, which is quite ironic, really, you know. But anyway, yeah.
Before we wrap this up, is there any favorite Iron Maiden song that you love to sing live?
I love singing Rothschild, and we haven't sung it for ages.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, love singing Rothschild.
Yeah.
Let me see, what else should we? Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, all of those we haven't done for ages. So yeah.
You gonna do that?
I couldn't possibly tell you.
Okay, hands up for Mr. Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Thank you. The new album sounds amazing. Hey.